welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, we have two distinguished members of Omega Psi Phi fraternity from the mighty 6th District, and we've got some information that we would like to impart. Let me first begin with Dr. Thaddeus Bell, who will then continue the program. Dr. Bell, it's on you, sir.
Well, thank you very much, Goodman. I first of all would like to say how much we appreciate the opportunity to interview our distinguished brother, Brother Kurt Walker, and we want to say thank you. I want to say thank you on behalf of Brother Walker and also on behalf of the 6th District for providing us with this platform to talk to Brother Walker today. So thank you again. Brother Kurt Walker, Brother Darryl, how you doing
Yes,
this morning,
sir.
brother?
I'm doing
Good.
fine, and it's definitely a pleasure to be here with you today.
Good. It gives me a distinct pleasure to have this opportunity to talk to you this morning. I have known you now for a couple of years and have watched you grow in this position. And today, I'd like to introduce you. You probably need no introduction, but maybe to the community, you may need further introduction. Certainly, you are well known throughout the 6th District and throughout the halls of Omega Psi Phi fraternity. But you are the district representative of North and South Carolina. I'd like for you to explain to our audience what that means and what your responsibilities are.
Sure, my brother. I am Brother Kurt Walker, the 6th District Representative of the mighty 6th District, and that comprises the states of North and South Carolina here internally. We have 13 districts, including the international bodies in terms of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, but I'm responsible for the 100 and say 6 or 7 graduate chapters of North and South Carolina. We represent the young men and our more senior brothers across the entire region. That's as south as the brothers in Beaufort, South Carolina, as west as the brothers in Anderson and Greenville counties, as north in North Carolina, as far as the city of Charlotte, Raleigh, North Carolina, the brothers in Rocky Mount. And so it's a vast and historic area of territories of the governance of the chapters of North and South Carolina. I myself, I'm a member of the Mu Alpha graduate chapter here in Charleston, South Carolina, and I've been affiliated right now a total of 3 chapters. I was initiated at the University of South Carolina Zeta Zeta chapter in the spring of 1989, and then I've been matriculated as to a graduate chapter, and that was the Fort Jackson graduate chapter in Columbia, South Carolina, and then I was between back and forth Charleston and Columbia, so I re-established with the chapter here in Charleston, South Carolina.
Well, thank you very much, brother. As you
Mhm.
were talking, I was reflecting on the graduate chapter that you were the bosselus of before
Yes.
you were elected to be the DR of the 6th District. Um, I know you are interested in history, but from a historical perspective, Mu Alpha, if my memory serves me correctly, um, you are the 4th DR from Mu Alpha chapter. Can you say a few words about the brothers from Mu Alpha that preceded you in your current role?
Sure, my brother. Uh, we are fortunate and blessed that we had 3 dynamic gentlemen who preceded me. The first being Dr. John Potts, who many in the audience are familiar with him from the work that he did at Avery Institute in Charleston. He was one of the uh, instrumental figures in the black community in terms of Charleston, South Carolina, and education. He also went on to become a Grand Boscalist. And then we had followed him, we had the brother, uh, what we call Brother Toby Daniels. And Brother Daniels was also an influential figure in terms of education in the Charleston community. And behind him, we had Brother Charles Sid Holmes. And myself being the fourth, we all are proud to be associated with the lineage of being a district representative. And it comes, definitely with a high degree of responsibility. I'm definitely honored to have my name associated with those gentlemen as well, because they were great pioneers in the history of Omega Psi Phi fraternity here in the 6th District.
Well, brother, we are certainly proud of you, and we're going to talk a little bit more about you. Uh, Interestingly enough, I've been in the fraternity long enough to have known three of the past DRs that you have mentioned. I did not know Brother Potts, but I knew of his work. And as you mentioned, he was in education. He was also the president of Voorhees College. And
Right.
interestingly enough, I had the opportunity of taking care of his daughter, who was one of my patients before she moved away. Brother DR, since for the younger brothers, can you just mention a little bit more about your background and who were the people that influenced you to go into our great fraternity?
I was very fortunate because I'm one of the young members who, unfortunately, did not have a father or a grandfather who was a brother of the fraternity. So I wasn't what you call a legacy member. Um, Myself, I didn't really get exposed to the fraternity until I moved to Charleston, South Carolina. I grew up in New York City, and for the most part, summer vacations was the only time that I really spent in Charleston until my grandmother moved to Charleston, and we followed her because her health started to decline. And I relocated and transferred to Burke High School in my that was 10th year of high school. So I was introduced to uh, Brother LaKyla Gilliard, who was a principal of the school at the time. We had principals, Brother John Singletary, and then we had Brother Floyd Breland, who was also known before his passing, becoming a member of the House of Representatives of South Carolina. We had several coaches. We had Brother Johnny Bynes. We had Brother uh, Earl Brown, and on the staff, we had significant teachers. We had Brother John Chapman. We had Brother Frank Taylor. And, so I was exposed to these men directly who became mentors. They taught me, and that relationship was instrumental to me in terms of knowing what fraternity I wanted to be a part of before I even entered the halls of the University of South Carolina. And so, again, my only immediate connection was my cousin, LaPonda Gilliard, excuse me, LaPonda Green. I'm sorry. She was a sister of the chapter at Baptist College. And so she would always tell me and say to me and mention that her brothers were the men of Omega Psi Phi. And so that was my really first exposure. But once I transferred into Burke High School, I was inundated with mentors and leadership from the men in the community who I still maintain a connection with those brothers here today. So they were very instrumental and molded me into the young man that I am, and into the young man that was seeking Omega when he got to the University of South Carolina.
Well, Brother Dr., it's interesting because all of the men that you mentioned, I knew very, very well. Some of them have passed away now, but when I came to Charleston at the age of 22 years of age, I got a chance to know all of the men that you mentioned earlier. And I got to tell you that you were mentored by some outstanding men. You had no choice but to become an Omega man, because those brothers were true Omega men, and they were very, very passionate about our fraternity. Now, Brother Dr., since you have become the Dr. of our illustrious fraternity, you have made quite a name for yourself. And I must admit that it is a good name. Um, I must let the audience know that at our last summit meeting, um, we had our last summit meeting was made up of the brothers from North and South Carolina. And on that call, we had the Grand Bacillus of Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and we had many of the past DRs, and we had brothers from the 6th and the 7th district. And at the end of the meeting, they did something that I have never heard in my 50 years plus of being in the fraternity, and that is they all gave you a round of applause virtually, because you have taken your role as the DR to another level, particularly in very, very trying times. I'd like for you to talk a little bit about some of the barriers that being the DR in a pandemic uh, has presented to you.
Sure. One thing, and I'm glad you referred to the recommendation or commendation that was made by former Grand Boss's brother Antonio Knox, and that to me is going to be a highlight of my career. But simply, I started out knowing that I was going to be faced with some insurmountable challenges with my executive team, Brother Lee Bennett and Brother Reginald Brown. We huddled up and we knew that this administration was going to be one like no other. Brother Melvin Mitchell, who was the 41st DR, he actually was the first DR to handle the virtual meetings in the setting, because the city of Charleston, we were slated to host the council meeting that particular year, and then to follow up, the district meeting was virtual as well in the city of Columbia. And so I started out my term as DR not having any in-face meetings. And so we knew then that we were going to be charged with saying, you know what, uh, we are going to be challenged. However, we as brothers are going to hunker down and come up with an agenda that will sustain the district and actually take advantage of the technology that many organizations are utilizing, such as Zoom, various platforms for their meetings. And so we did that, and I guess we're trying to do it well. Um, Again, the our body, when we had the grand bosses on the call in terms of our annual meeting our council meeting, and then we of course are going to host the virtual meeting for the annual meeting, that will take place with the whole city of Charlotte, the Power Five chapter, taking the reins for that. But in planning, we knew that we were going to use the digital media and platform as a result of the COVID virus. And the COVID virus has impacted us tremendously in terms of most of our chapters are meeting what we call virtually at this time. And so we have tried to stay and adhere to the protocols or the health initiatives that was summoned to us by the DHEC, the state agencies in North and South Carolina, and of course, I have the direct benefit of having a brother like yourself, Dr. Thad Bell, who has been coaching me, advising me during this pandemic period of the do's and the don'ts. And so we have been trying our best to maintain these practices so that we can ensure the livelihood and the lives of the brothers of the 6th District. And so, with that being said, um, we have picked up our programming to the point that we are doing virtual programs in terms of probably several each month on a variety of subjects. Our political forums, we played a major role in the political season in terms of educating voters and getting more brothers and sisters to be involved in the process. We've also impacted the economics of the 6th District by partnering with an organization such as the United States Secret Service. And that started here in the 6th District with just an email from one of our chapter brothers, Brother James Barr. His cousin is a recruiter for the Secret Service, and it just started out with a friendly email saying, "Hey, Brother Walker, can you do anything? I would like to get you in touch with my cousin," and that just started to snowball. And we initially started with a district-wide call with the staff of the United States Secret Service. That then led into a conversation with our Grand Bosslers. And now, later this month, the Grand Bosslers is going to connect the United States Secret Service with the other Divine Nine organizations. So it's becoming a truly international and national effort to get our people of color more job opportunities and professional opportunities with the United States Secret Service. And another thing, we also started district-wide blood drives with a partnership with the United States, the American Red Cross. And Mrs. Shawnette Sneed has been instrumental in that process in assisting our chapters and educating our chapters with the need of blood donors and the need of African American to become more instrumental in terms of donating blood to give to uh, patients that suffer from sickle cell anemia. So we're getting educated on that process. And so we are doing a number of things in spite of this pandemic to push the needle forward in terms of progress and not just staying home and being inactive. We realize we have to step up in terms of our leadership and getting our communities through this stage of the pandemic.
Well, brother, I can tell you, yes, you have been all over the place, and sometimes I get a little worried about you being all over the place like you have been. But I understand you have to do what you have to do. But I also recognize that you have been taking the recommendations that have been given to you by the Health Initiative Committee with reference to social
Yes.
distancing and wearing your mask and washing your hands. And certainly we want to encourage you to continue doing that because we definitely don't want our DR to get sick. But I got a number of other questions to ask you. But before we go forward, I want to give you the opportunity to say a little bit about your executive team. Because frankly, I have been thoroughly impressed that your executive team, the men that you have put together around you, have done an outstanding job, and I want to give you the opportunity just to say a little bit about them.
Sure. I knew very early that the executive team and the strengths that they offer me would, really impact in how successful that we are perceived by the brothers of the Mighty Six District. Um, the main two was brother Reginald Brown. Of course, he's a former bosses of the Mu Alpha chapter. I worked on his cabinet in terms of coming into the chapter and leadership, and then of course we have brother Lee Bennett. Brother Lee Bennett, of course, brings a wealth of experience and knowledge. He is a senior brother from the Zeta chapter of the Virginia Union, and I'm thankful to have those two brothers uh, to help me and assist me in terms of governing the sixth district, and across the district leadership team, we have brothers from South Carolina and North Carolina. My first vice, Brother Al White, is doing a tremendous job in terms of stepping up and making sure that I'm on task. Brother White is one of the more senior brothers in terms of on the executive committee, and he brings a wealth of strength from his professional background as well as his experience as a district officer. And, uh, man to man, all the way to the last man on the executive team, we have a well versed group of individuals who stepped up to the plate to represent not only their chapters but to represent the fraternity, and I can't say enough about them.
Well, I certainly like to congratulate them. They have done a wonderful job in keeping you on point. I've just been thoroughly impressed with when I listen to all of the things that you all have done, uh, considering all of the barriers uh, that have been attached to your tenure as DR during this COVID pandemic. I'm just amazed. With that being said, there has been a lot of attention given to the Divine Nine. I know the
Mhm.
public hears a lot about the Divine Nine. Could you make a few comments about who the Divine Nine are and how we work together as a team to push forward the agendas of the Black community?
Yes, the Divine Nine is the group of fraternities and sororities, the historically black fraternities and sororities, and that includes our fraternity, Omega Psi Phi. Then we have the brothers of Alpha Phi Alpha, Kappa Alpha Psi Phi Beta Sigma, and of course the Iotas. And then we have the ladies of, or the sisters of Delta Sigma Theta, Alpha Kappa Alpha sorority. We have also the Sigma Gamma Rho and the Zeta Phi Beta organizations. And those nine organizations consist of the Divine Nine. And we are fortunate at this time that our international president and bossless, Dr. David E. Marion, is now the president of the Council of Presidents of the Divine Nine organizations. So, as I said earlier, he's is using his position and leadership to even push the needle forward in terms of making sure that we all do what we can in this time of pandemic to participate and actively engage our communities on all levels. You've seen it during during the last presidential election. We played a tremendous part in galvanizing our voters in our blocks in terms of participating in the process and educating those to participate in the process. And now, what you see, the next step of that is we played a valuable role in the Georgia elections. The district representative, in terms of the seventh district, is brother Reginald Harris, and he has stepped up to the plate and got our brothers in terms of the brothers in the seventh district, and you know, getting out to the polls, educating people, and we see now that our organizations have a tremendous role to play in the governance of this country, and of course, making sure our brothers and sisters demonstrate to the world that we are leaders and we continue to produce leadership in terms of the Divine Nine. You know, the newly elected state senator in Georgia, uh, Mr. Warnock, is a member of Alpha Phi Alpha fraternity. So, our leadership is always displayed in terms of and out front in terms of leadership for the country, and we are so proud of that.
Well, you're absolutely right, and I'm glad that you mentioned that. And of course, we have our brother Jim Clyburn, who has
Hmm.
who started the ball rolling, and then of course Kamala Harris, who's the vice president elect, and I think I'm missing one other person, but oh yes, the young woman out of Georgia who was responsible
That's
for
right.
galvanizing. Yeah, so the Divine Nine, which come mostly from HBCUs, but not exclusively from HBCUs. We played we are finally on the stage, and it looks like we are going to play a major role in what goes on a
Mhm.
national and on a world platform. So with that being said, I'm going to say COVID-19 for the last, but I know that there are two projects that you've been involved in. The first one is the brother Benjamin Mays project. Benjamin Mays was one of my favorite fraternity brothers. I had the opportunity to meet him before he passed away. But I'd like for you to make a few comments about the project that our fraternity did in celebrating the life of Benjamin Mays.
Yes, Benjamin Mays, Dr. Benjamin Mays is one of the instrumental figures in Omega Psi Phi fraternity, and he was in his lifetime very visible in terms of being present at district meetings and so forth. Actually, here in uh, Charleston, South Carolina, there's a very famous picture of him at the steps of Avery at one of the district meetings in the 1950s, right on the steps of Avery. And so right now we are engaged with helping Mr. Curtis Thomas, who is the curator of the Benjamin E. Mays site, historic site in Greenwood, South Carolina. And he already has a statue there that, of course, the administration, I think it was Brother Howard Jackson, we gave a substantial contribution to that effort. And what we're doing now is we are embarking on another project so that we can raise funds, scholarship funds, in his name for the brothers of the fraternity. And so we have a brick project, a memorial brick project that's underway right now. And that leads us into another project that we started. And matter of fact, I think the vote will be taking place this week to formalize our partnership with the city of Charleston to do a project in honor of our founder, Dr. Ernest E. Just, here in Charleston, South Carolina. And so there will be a city park that's slated to be coming online, and hopefully it will be constructed either in the fall or the spring of next year. And then in that park, and I believe the park is already named the Carr Richardson Park, and a feature of that park under the leadership of myself, Councilman Keith Waring, Councilman Saccharin, Councilman Dudley Gregory, and several others. We're going to do a statue of our founder, Dr. Ernest E. Just, and possibly also memorialize his mother at the same time, Mary Just, who was instrumental in the history of the city of Charleston with the area that we know as Maryville, which was named in her honor. And so, with those two projects, that's going to be giving international recognition to those men, and you know, further promote the legacy of their work and contribution to the world.
Um, certainly do appreciate you bringing those brothers to the light of the public. You may not be aware, but brother Dr. Joe Patton, who is a very good friend of mine, was responsible for the memorial that you saw in Greenville, South. I don't know whether you know Brother Joe Patton or had the opportunity to meet him. He's still alive and still very active.
Okay.
And, and also, just as a small bit of history that you also may not be aware of, but I had the opportunity when I first came to Charleston. I taught school, and in my homeroom class was the granddaughter of Brother Ernest E. Just. That's a whole different story that I'll have to
Right.
tell about at some point in time. But let's push forward. Now, brother Kurt Walker, brother Dr. Kurt Walker, you have walked into a pandemic, COVID-19. Tell us, what are some of your challenges and concerns as a result of being the DR of a world pandemic?
You know, one of the things that hit me right off at the start of my administration is, uh, of course, we had to confine and restrict our chapters with face-to-face activities and meetings. Um, and that was a challenge because, as you know, we are a fraternity, and part of that is the aspect of us actually fraternizing. And we had to, issue statements and directives from the international body as well as down to the district body to limit brothers in terms of their contact so that we don't spread this virus inadvertently. And that was a major obstacle, hurdle, because we know our natural tendency is to spend time together, and that's one of the is still one of the tough parts to deal with when we deal with an airborne virus. And so you know we, as started issuing directives, literature, education, and pretty much trying our best to get brothers to understand the sensitive nature of the COVID virus. And as we learn about it and learn more about it, I think as a country, we are taking this virus a lot more serious. We look at the numbers as we get educated from news programs and day-to-day websites, what have you. It is we are right now in the bulk or the period of what was predicted to be the worst period of this pandemic because of the holiday travel. Some people chose to ignore the warnings to disengage from group settings, holiday travel. We are now experiencing some of the highest death rates as a result. And so we now have to go on get ready for a very critical stage, which is what they call the post Christmas stage or the post New Year stage. And so we unfortunately got to look forward to the rise in death tolls in terms of as a result of folks who didn't heed that advice in terms of the close of the year. We're now dealing with educating the African American community, especially about the vaccine. And the vaccination um, has a lot that has to be taught and learned to the populace. There was questions concerning the the safety of the vaccine. There are questions concerning the storage of the vaccine that we now, as organizations such as the local chapters, the district chapters, we got to get this information out to the grassroots to, one, let our folks know how this vaccine is going to play in terms of preventing the spread and indoctrinating the virus in terms of making sure that some folks will develop an immunity to this virus. And so we got all of that to, to go and deal with in the next coming weeks and months. And I think we are up to the task in terms of making sure. And from a personal point, I realize that this is going to be a tremendous effort because we know historically within the African American community, we're dealing with a community that has, developed a distrust, deservedly so, about the medical systems and communities from the historic practices and legacies of such instances like the Tuskegee experiment with syphilis and other instances that, as a result, these folks have developed a distrust. And so we have to now re-educate our people in terms of the mere fact of the matter is this is an airborne and deadly contagion, and we can't risk our folks staying at home figuring they are safe when this is airborne. And that in itself has to cause all of us to examine the fact that we have to inoculate ourselves with this virus. And so I was proud to see, you on Facebook showing the video clip of receiving the vaccine. My chapter bosselist, Brother Reggie Terry, he is on the front line and one of the healthcare professionals. He already has the vaccine. I'm waiting to get to the point when I can get the vaccine and get the video proof to encourage other brothers to get vaccinated because this is serious and deadly, and we got to make sure we do whatever we can in terms of promoting individuals to get the vaccine when it's readily made available for not only the healthcare professionals but the general public.
But Brother Darryl, I want to acknowledge that you certainly have been open to listening to the science that the Health Initiative Committee, which includes myself and other physicians in North and South Carolina. In fact, it has been under your administration that we have had a Health Initiative Committee, several committee meetings in which I've had the opportunity to call on the expertise of some very fine brothers who are physicians, nurses, healthcare administrators, and brothers who are scientists and who have actually played a role in the development of the vaccine. And of course, we have given you that information, and you have listened. And we know that a lot of pressure has been put on you by brothers who sometimes don't quite understand the seriousness of the issue, and you have not been that type of person, and certainly we have appreciated that. Now, I got a couple of other things that I want to mention that I want you to talk about because I know these are things that are dear to your heart. I want you to make a few comments about the Boho project. And then when you finish that, I want you to mention about the new chapter, Epsilon Nu Nu. And then thirdly, I want you to mention about the new initiative that has started during your administration, and that's the 50 plus brothers that you have endorsed and that has gained a lot of momentum. So let's start with the borehole project first.
Sure. The borehole project pretty much came about during a visit that our Grand Bosses, Dr. David Marion and a team of brothers visited the country of Ghana. And at that time, of course, they were, again, of help in formulating a chapter in the country of Ghana, visiting. And one thing that stood out that Brother Marion actually shared with me was that when they went to Ghana, it was very clear about the need for drinking water. So much so that he saw a young man, and it was an image that he told me that he would remember it for the rest of his life. Um, he thought the brother was urinating, and the brother was actually urinating in his hand so he can drink it. I hate to be that graphic for the listeners, but brother Marion said he was so touched by that, witnessing that they began the Water for Life project in the country of Ghana. And so they started 4 boreholes, and then he challenged the the districts of the fraternity to also establish boreholes as well. And he challenged the larger districts, the sixth, the seventh, the ninth, um, and of course the second, to do at least 2 boreholes apiece. We, as the brothers of the sixth district, heard that challenge, met that challenge, and we have actually, to date, have sponsored 4 boreholes in terms of meeting the Water for Life project need in the country of Ghana, and that expose our brothers in terms of how we can be not only impactful what's going on now in terms of our current society and the issues that all of our chapters are dealing with, but how we can also play a role just in making sure that brothers and sisters who look like us in the country of Ghana make sure that they receive clean drinking water. And so that has been a successful effort in terms of participation. On the next note, in terms of the chapter in Mount Pleasant, South Carolina. I'm pleased that we finally got a chapter there, and they're called the Epsilon New chapter, or we are called the Epsilon New chapter. And we established that chapter right before we started the virtual conclave this past summer. And we hope, and I'm looking for great things to come out of that chapter, because right now, to date, Mu Alpha is the only graduate chapter in the city of Charleston. And to have one graduate chapter to be responsible for 3 of the largest cities in the state of South Carolina, that would have been Mount Pleasant, Charleston, and North Charleston. That's a tremendous ask. Right now, even the city of Charlotte, they have at least one chapter, but they have 300 or so more brothers in that chapter. And the surrounding area of Concord has the Brothers of Phi Chi. And so we felt it was not only time for the chapter, but the brothers of the Mount Pleasant community approached me as soon as I was elected, and we started looking at uh, ways or avenues to start a chapter just because of the growth of the city of Charleston at this time. And so now that we got that chapter, again, I'm looking forward to those brothers doing tremendous things in the city of Mount Pleasant. And I know you said one other thing you wanted me to speak on.
The, the new initiative that has been started, that's referred to
The
as
50-year
50
brothers.
plus,
Yes,
right?
yes. We of course, in Omega Psi Phi, brothers who have 50 years or more of service are truly gems in terms of into the body of Omega Psi Phi. And a former former DR and a former Grand Officer, a former first Vice District Representative, Brother John Scott, has been tremendous and instrumental in this effort to push the envelope, so to speak, and making sure that the senior brothers are given more recognition in the district of the Mighty Six District. And so we started meeting in terms of that group of brothers, 50 years of service or more, preserving those brothers' history. We're getting those brothers interviewed. We had tremendous support and assistance from Brother Mike Boykin. Brothers around the district know him from his years or decades of being involved with as an undergraduate advisor with the brothers at NC State University, and of course his time on the editorial board of the Oracle, and being a past editor of the Oracle. And so those brothers, man, they just led the charge in saying we need to do more in terms of recognizing and honoring those brothers with 50 years of service or more. And so we got a district pin that was designed, and that's going to start actually disseminating out to the brothers. We were looking to do that for Christmas. However, we ran into a couple issues in terms of the list. And so now we got the information coming out from the chapters, and we'll get those hopefully disseminated during and before the third council meeting. And so I'm looking forward to how we can take that group of brothers even further.
Brother DR, the other person that I know I'm asking you to remember a lot of things, but the 50 plus project came about as a result and is the brainchild of Brother Trusant Avant,
Yes.
who is who is a 92-year-old brother who I've had the wonderful opportunity of being a good friend with over the past 2 years. And at one of the district meetings, he came up to me and he said, "You know, brother," he said, "one of the things that I would like to see happen is we have a 50 plus organization within our fraternity, and these are brothers who just call and check on brothers who are elderly like me." He said it really does me good when brothers check on me, and so I started doing exactly that, and then he mentioned it to John Scott, and then of course John Scott picked up the mantle and began to run with it. But I just want to mention that it was the mindset of Brother Trusant Avant,
And you
who I might
you're correct in that. You're absolutely correct in that. Because matter of fact, I spoke to Brother Toussaint about 2 days ago for his birthday, and
yes, yes,
calling to wish him a happy birthday. I had to thank him for exactly what you're saying now, being an impetus to get and those brothers started. And so, Brother Toussaint is a legendary figure in the sixth district, and it was good. You know, Brother Toussaint, at a 90-year plus brother, is still driving and able to drive, and that's that just tells you how sharp that brother still is. And so it was good
yeah.
to talk to him on his birthday just a few days ago.
Yeah, he's quite a character, and he
Hmm.
is what we all are hoping that we will have a long life like brother True Son Amen.
Yes.
Well, brother Walker, we are coming up on about 1 hour. Um, Before I conclude this interview, I want to give you the opportunity to say anything that you would like to say at this point in time. What's your vision and what's your hope as it relates to our illustrious fraternity?
And that's a very serious question, and I am, honored to sit and serve as the 42nd district representative of the Mighty Six District. And for me, myself personally, I had started this out with knowing some of the challenges. I didn't imagine how some of them would play out and are continuing to play out. And I knew I had to be in a certain state of mind to be in this chair at this particular hour. And so I really made a commitment to getting stronger in my faith. I joined a church and got some very instrumental and still receiving very instrumental advice and guidance and mentorship from brother Herbert Beard and the pastor of Jerusalem Baptist Church in Charleston. It's good to, you know, call on an Omega man to help me get my spirit right. And believe it or not, brothers, we taking this thing very seriously. We got a prayer call that was started with brothers in the sixth district under the leadership of our grand bosses at the time, brother Antonio Knox. He, of course, uh, spirited a group of brothers who started a national prayer call, and with the grand chaplain at the time, and with our district chaplain, uh, brother Raymond Johnson, they started a prayer call, and we do that every morning, Monday through Friday, and it's been going on now almost 2 years or more. Excuse me, going into the maybe third or fourth year now, because it was the 2 years under the administration of Dr. Marion. But we started this call when Brother Knox was the Grand Bosselist. And so, brothers, we just asking all of our brothers just to stay committed. Excuse me one second. Just to stay committed in terms of, the spiritual ask that we're asking all of us to do in terms of staying prayed up, staying focused, and staying, ready to serve at all times, day or night. The coronavirus is one thing, but we got brothers that's still dealing with the daily life in terms of, or the daily issues that come to us every morning, every evening. We got brothers who are losing their uh, relatives. We got brothers we are praying for that have been called home to Omega chapter every day. On top of this, we got the coronavirus. So we can only imagine how stressful, how strenuous this task of getting out of the bed every day to, you know, uh, push forward with your daily lives. And so
Yes.
I myself, I find myself just starting each morning like that, making sure that there's somebody praying for you. And I found that to be the most giving thing that I can do in terms of being the DR. But on top of that, at the beginning of each day, we find ways to get ourselves motivated, get ourselves engaged with challenging issues each and every day. And so I just pray that I'm still here when this pandemic is over and be able to have conversations like this with Brother Bell and Brother Goodman in terms of, looking back on this thing and say, wow, man, can you imagine what we endured? No one would ever thought that, I would have had to be a DR during a global deadly pandemic. But hopefully we will be able to talk about it in the past tense. And I'm praying for that.
Well, Brother DR, thank you very much. We're gonna give you a chance to rest now. One of the things that I would like to make sure that the community understands, because I think that sometimes
Sounds like
they
you're about
see
ready
our
to give me back.
fraternity as a good time fraternity, a group of men that's willing to have a good time. We still have that dog persona, and I want to let the community know that while we appreciate having a good time, our fraternity, I would like to say, is in a metamorphosis and that we have changed. We are a service fraternity. We are a group of Christian men who try to do the right thing by our community, and that's the persona that we want to acknowledge, and we want the men who are considering coming into our fraternity to recognize. So, Brother DR, I want to say thank you very, very much. I want to say thank you to Brother Darryl Goodman for giving me the opportunity to interview our outstanding DR Brother Kurt Walker. And with that being said, I'll turn this back over to Brother Goodman.
Education, information, and updates. Ladies and gentlemen, you have just received that from the 6th District, District Representative, Brother Kirk Walker, hosted by Dr. Thaddeus John Bell. If you didn't know, now you do. I want to thank both of you gentlemen for your time, for your talent, and for what you do. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being a part of this, because we do it because we want you to be informed. Hopefully real soon, we'll have these two gentlemen back with more information, education, and updates. You're already informed. Thank you very much, and we're out.